This NFL Week 14 Player Props edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. We're also brought to you by the SGPN app. The SGPN app is completely free to download and home to all your favorite SGPN podcasts, contests, and picks. Just type SGPN in your App Store today to download America's #1 DGen app. Welcome, everyone, to the NFL Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Friday, December the 15th, currently 4:03 on the East Coast. Here to get into our NFL Week 15 player props for the Sunday games and recap what we saw on Thursday Night Football. And joining me here, I got my guy here with me. You guys know him as the king of the motorsports world, the hardest working man in the sports media space. It's Rod Villagomez. Rod, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
Apparently the guy who also needs to buy himself a new mic cable because I keep making all those crazy noises. But I'm good. I'm good. I'm happy that last night went the way it went. That was actually a fun game to watch. However, a little disappointed in the Chargers defense for one, allowing the Raiders to go hog wild on them, and two, not capitalizing on it by making some tackles and some sacks in that. I mean, that game got out of hand so early that Khalil Mack sack never happened. And then Derwin James, all he was doing was playing center field last night. I was a little bit pissed off about that one too. But I mean, look, all in all, what did we hit? We hit a DST, a Raiders DST touchdown. You hit Jacoby Myers in there. Almost got him for a first touchdown if we would have just, been able. But, dude, we hit some pretty big bets last night.
Yeah, yesterday was a nice bounce back for both myself and you, Rod. I know I had an absolutely terrible week last week on Thursday Night Football, so it felt good to bounce back this week on Thursday Night Football. We hit 3 touchdown bets. So you hit the biggest one, which was the Raiders defense and special teams. I was right, plus 750. I threw in Devontae Adams at plus 155, and then also Jacoby Myers at plus 250. Swept the board on the props that I did give out with Eckler over 26.5 receiving yards. That number did close 29.5, so I'm praying that everybody did get that at lower than or less than 29.5 receiving yards. Aiden O'Connell over on his pass attempts got there fairly easily. And then my last one was Gerald Everett. And that one I think cashed within the first half, I want to say, for my prop bets. And you also had an incredible night as well. So, Rod, I mean, the game last night, like you mentioned, it was, well, I know we'll talk about it probably extensively here before we do get into our props. So, you want to rattle off the winners that you gave out as well, just kind of, tout ourselves a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Yeah, I had the Easton Stick longest completion over 33.5. That one did not hit, unfortunately. I think I said under. I typed in over on this, but I think I went under.
I thought you said over.
Did I say over?
I'll have to go back. We'll double check the tape.
Yeah, we'll have to check the tape. Because I know that I was cheering for the under because he wasn't getting anywhere near it. But I had Michael Mayer over 19.5 receiving yards for sure. That one, and I said ladder it up to 31.5. Boy, he definitely came through and then some on that prop. So if you laddered it all the way up to the plus 190, you are a very happy camper. I tell you what, man, Mayer, he may just very well become that tight end threat and a league winner if you have him in fantasy.
Yeah, 100%. He had a really good day last week. On Thursday night, both tight ends had a great week as well. So overall, great pod for us for the Thursday night. Hopefully we can carry that over into the Sunday games. But obviously, I think you and I talked about this yesterday, is that probably Brandon Staley's days were numbered. And I think this was absolutely the final nail in the coffin after you gave up 42 points in the first half alone to the Las Vegas Raiders, in a team that we talked about, Rod, that got shut out by the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, the Minnesota Vikings defense is a whole hell of a lot better than the Los Angeles Chargers. But for you to give up 42 points, and no disrespect to Aiden O'Connell, but they didn't have Josh Jacobs last night, I don't believe. Devontae Adams did end up playing. He had a great game for them. But it was every single guy on that offensive side of the football, at least from a skill position standpoint, had a pretty great night. And I'm pretty sure a lot of those guys, if not all those guys, got over their stat projections, whether it was receiving yards and a lot of anytime touchdowns yesterday as well. But the bigger story here, obviously, this morning we get the news that Brandon Staley and the GM of the Chargers have officially been fired. I think a lot of us were calling for this maybe 10 weeks ago, maybe even last season for Brandon Staley. So it seems like it's now going to be a new era for the Los Angeles Chargers. But I mean, I don't think you were shocked when you did hear the news about this Brandon Staley firing this morning, Rod.
I don't think he was shocked when he heard
Yeah.
this morning. I mean, really, when you have that bad of a showing and you know that the world is calling for you, you have to know that it's definitely going to happen that next day. I mean, as a franchise, you can't necessarily stand by your man when everybody else is against it. So, yeah, unfortunately, I think everybody was. And little does everybody know, the Spanos family is pretty big out here where I live in Stockton. We have a building named after Alex Spanos. There's a Spanos area of where like housing and stuff like that out here. So, I mean, we're pretty intimate with the Chargers organization and the ownership. So, I made a phone call to Alex and Dean last night, and I said, "Hey guys, let's make this change." And they said, "Okay." So
there we go. Yeah, I mean, something that needed to be done in a man of the people is Rod, and he saves Charger fans as well of any more agony. But I mean, look, that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin last night for Brandon Staley. So if you're a Chargers fan, maybe, I mean, I think the only direction is to go up from here. Obviously, you're not going to be making the playoffs. Justin Herbert is done for the season. I think that this is probably going to be, I think, the most important hire in this offseason, I think, throughout the entire NFL, because we talked about it yesterday, Rod, that the amount of talent that this team has on both sides of the football is underperforming. And I don't want to regurgitate everything that we said yesterday, but again, to nobody's surprise, Brandon Staley was let go. I think the other conversation as well is that I know I've touted this a lot, and I've mentioned that I think Antonio Pierce deserves this job. I don't think that the Raiders can fumble this 2 seasons in a row. He's a he's a coach, obviously a former player with the Giants that players want to play for, and he's a leader, and he says the right things, and he gets his team ready every single week, to play professional football games. And being in a town in Vegas where, turning into a sports town, I think we're kind of past that phase with now obviously the WNBA team that's won multiple titles in back-to-back seasons. You have the Raiders with the new stadium, Mark Davis as your owner. The Oakland A's are now moving to Las Vegas, and in the rumors of potentially an NBA team as well, moving or expanding a franchise into Vegas, led by possibly LeBron, to be a team owner there. So, I think that for this Raiders team, I think that number one, the quarterback position is going to be a topic in the offseason for sure. But I think that if you're a Raiders fans, Rod, that I think you're generally excited about what's kind of how the season has turned around for this team after how it started with Jimmy G and the injuries that they were dealing with.
Hey, let's not forget about the Las Vegas Vipers, huh? The XFL in the house.
Oh yeah,
I actually don't know that they're going to come back as in that iteration. I don't think they made the cut. But listen, so my cousin is a hardcore Raiders fan. And he was actually at that game last night. So it was amazing for him to be able to see one of the best performances by his team in history. So I thought that was pretty cool. But I mean, look, just by reading his Instagram stories and his wife's Instagram stories, there's a lot to be excited for the Raiders. And there are quotes that are said by folks that stick with them for the rest of their life. And I want to say that one of the biggest, just win babies up there, right? But how about keep your foot on the gas? That is probably going to go down in Raiders lore as one of the greatest quotes out there, because keep your foot on the gas is exactly the way you want to go after a team. You don't want to come back and say, well, we're probably just going to rest our starters. We're up by 1.5 million points. We'll probably just go ahead and take it easy. No, that's not the mentality over there. They want to keep their foot on the gas. They want to keep this momentum going. They want to keep winning. They want to keep their starters. I know that a lot of people are like, why are so-and-so still out there? When you're a team that needs an identity, you can't afford to pull your players. You have to go at them, and you have to keep at it when you have the advantage. It's like a Civil War general or a World War II general. If you have the advantage, you press that advantage. You don't fall back and let the enemy regroup and come back at you again. No, you keep going. And that's what they did last night. And that's going to go a long way for the rest of the season. They might not win them all, but
Yeah.
I guarantee you they'll be in the fight every single game this year.
It's effort, right? Like they're actually making the effort to, go out there and perform and win ball games like they did obviously last night. I mean, it's not going to be in a fashion we're going out and putting up 63 points every single night, but obviously when you have the opportunity to take advantage of a team that was pretty much vulnerable after losing their starting quarterback and a lot of conversation about your head coach, they went out and took care of business on their home field after what transpired last weekend, losing 3-0. So yeah, brighter days ahead for both of these teams. We'll put Thursday night football in the rearview mirror here, Rod. And before we actually do get into our Sunday player props here, let me tell everyone about let's talk about prize picks here, Rod. I mean, look, we put together our entry yesterday. We were ever so close to getting into the money. Unfortunately, Khalil Mack didn't get that sack that we did need. But hey, Prize Picks is some of the most fun that I've had all season long, putting together these entries with their fantasy stat projections for these players. I know Rod has been absolutely crushing it as well. And Prize Picks, again, I've had a lot of success making money. I've made up to 20 times my money just this football season alone. I know NBA season's in full singer as well. So all you got to do on Prize Picks is you just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stats, and place your entry. It's pretty much that simple. And like I mentioned, with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League tab. So what does that mean? If you want to take a look at LeBron and Travis Kelce at a combo of 10.5 of 3-pointers made and receptions for both of those players, well, you can do that over on Prize Picks. You can also play along some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill. And you can find community plays under the promos tab of the app that we view entries in the Prize Picks community every single week. Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. And PrizePicks also now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. So how do you take advantage? Go to prizepicks.com/SGPN and use promo code SGPN for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/SGPN using promo code SGPN. You'll get a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. All right, Rod, another exciting weekend of football upon us for week 15. Hey, we get Saturday and we get Sunday games this week, my friend. So a lot for us to pick from. I'll let you lead it off, buddy. What do you got for our first player prop?
Indeed. Yeah, Saturday football. That's going to be awesome again. I know that CFL, XFL, AAF, USFL folks, we know all too well about Saturday football, but I love it that the NFL is giving us some as well. So, all right, let us start with the Dolphins and the Jets. That game, I think that is one of the Saturday games, is it not? That's that
Jets and Dolphins. I believe it's on Sunday.
Oh, that is on Sunday. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll look at the other. Okay. So, anyways, it doesn't matter. We'll stick on Sunday. Jets and Dolphins. I'm going to take Breece Hall because I'm not a hack. I'm going to take his under on his rushing yards, 44.5. This is at -110 over on Bet365. You know, I know that we've all expected great things out of Breece Hall, and he's shown us some great things, but unfortunately, over the last several weeks, I mean, it has been sort of a dry wasteland for Breece Hall. Last week, 10 carries, 40 yards. The week before that, 13 for 16, 7 carries for 25, 10 for 23, 13 for 28, 16 for 50, but then you go 12 for 17, 12 for 39. I mean, endless. The one good game he had was against Denver, where he had 22 carries for 177 yards. But even outside of that, 56, 18, 9. I know that we all, when we hear Breece Hall, all you think about is that 177-yard game, right? And then it sort of clouds your judgment because you feel like every single game is of that caliber. But unfortunately, the stats do not bear that out as well. The last time he faced the Dolphins, 7 rushes for 25 yards. It has not been a spectacular year. So this 44.5 yard total is kind of crazy. And when you think about what the Dolphins have been doing against running backs this season, to the position, they've only been giving up 80.54 yards per game to the running back position this year. Overall, 95.5 rushing yards per game. They're not even giving up 100 yards per game. So, like I said, to the entire position, 80. You go back, Derrick Henry only got 34 yards against him last week. Tajay Spears got 29, 35 for Antonio Gibson. Brian Robinson did get 53, but, that's still kind of an outlier. Talked about what they did against it. Josh Jacobs, only 39 against them. So they have been shutting down some pretty good running backs over the course of the season. And I don't see Breece Hall getting many yards at all against this offense. And they're not going to be running more often than not. I think Dolphins are going to be up ahead. They're going to have to pass this ball, which is why Breece hasn't been getting a lot of runs. So, all that to say, give me Breece Hall under 45.5 rushing yards at -110.
Yeah, I mean, love the handicap. You nailed it, right? Since week 10, the Dolphins are allowing the fourth least rushing yards to the running back position. Only ahead of them are the Minnesota Vikings, the New England Patriots, and obviously your San Francisco 49ers. So, and you mentioned, right, Rod, like over the last 5 weeks, Breece Hall is averaging 2.5 yards per carry. Like, I don't think that's a recipe, obviously, for success, but also, like you mentioned, that in this game against the Dolphins, that they should or will gonna have to throw the football if you're gonna be trailing in this game. Obviously, they are with the point spread of 9.5 here, and I do expect like the Dolphins offense to bounce back here. I know Tyreek Hill is officially listed as questionable for this game with an ankle injury, but again, it just hasn't been very pretty from Breece Hall over the past several weeks. So I do love this player prop. Breece Hall under 45.5 is the number you said, Rod?
I got 44.5. If you can find
44.
45, then absolutely smash that. But yeah, 44.
Yeah, 100%. All right. All right. For my first player prop, I'll stick with a running back here as well. I'm actually gonna go to your guy, Christian McCaffrey. Give me the over 27.5 receiving yards for Christian McCaffrey. And number one, I mean, the guy's resume speaks for himself. But if you take a look at what he's been able to do against his Cardinals team that they're facing on Sunday, since he got traded from the Panthers to the San Francisco 49ers, he's played in 3 career games against the Arizona Cardinals. And in those games, he's had 67 receiving yards, 34 receiving yards, and 71 earlier this season. And he had an absolute monster game in that game against the Cardinals back on October 1st. 20 rush attempts for 106 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing, but more importantly, through the air, 7 receptions, 71 yards, like I mentioned, and 1 receiving touchdown. So I think that we'll see a lot of Christian McCaffrey in this game. When you take a look as well, that the Cardinals have also struggled against the running back position this season, but also since week 10, the Cardinals are allowing the most rushing yards to the opposition, and they're right around giving up only 26.8 receiving yards. But this is a different animal. It's Christian McCaffrey, and they game plan for him differently, and they get him involved in the passing game as well. So I'll take Christian McCaffrey over 27.5 receiving yards here, Rod.
I mean, you just look at the last 3 outings against the Cardinals for the 49ers, 38-10, 38-13, 35-16. That's a lot of opportunities for your running back to touch the ball because you're up. And with Christian McCaffrey, I know that when they get up too big, then it's Mason, then it's Mitchell. Like those are guys come in to spell the beast. But the reason that they're up that big is because Christian McCaffrey has been performing the way he has early. So, yeah, I expect another gigantic game out of Christian McCaffrey. I expect another gigantic game out of these 49ers against a reeling Cardinals team. So any McCaffrey stat, I was going to give one, but I figured that I'm too close to the situation and I keep doing it. So I backed away. So I'm glad you jumped on one.
There we go. All right, Rod, before we do get into round 2 of our player props here, my friend, let me tell everyone about Hall of Fame bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download, research every NFL, NBA, and soccer bet with circle stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any team or any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Rod, let's get into our round two of our player props here, my friend. What do you got?
So I'm going to go with another guy that when you think of him, you think of 100,000 catches, 100,000 yards just about every single game. But unfortunately, lately that hasn't been true, and that is Justin Jefferson. I've got Justin Jefferson, obviously taking on Cincinnati. I'm going to take the under on his reception total. He's set at 5.5 right now, and the under is juiced at plus 118. You say I'm crazy because, like I said, you think of Justin Jefferson, all you think of is catching the ball. All you think of is big, gigantic plays. But the last two games, and honestly, they've been suffering at the quarterback position. And so it's difficult to play any good as even a star sometimes if you're suffering at the quarterback position. Last two games, 3 targets, 2 catches against the Raiders. Now, granted, we know how great the Raiders defense is now, right? As far as what we've seen last week, maybe that was, big. But the week before that, 6 targets, only 3 receptions. Granted, the next one, he did get 6 catches, which is over this mark on 9 targets against Carolina. But again, you're starting to see not just the receptions dwindle, but the targets start to dwindle because guess what? There's no stability at the quarterback position right now. Dobbs was out, and now you're not even going to have Dobbs more than likely. So I'm telling you right now, this is a very struggling team for the Minnesota Vikings. They can't get anything going right now. And I just don't see Justin Jefferson being able to necessarily come in and catch 6 passes. He may get to 5, but Nick Mullins is not going to get you there. I'm sorry, but Nick Mullins is not. We saw him in San Francisco. I definitely know that I've paid attention to early in his career against it. But Nick Mullins, look, he had 9 completions when he came in against the Raiders last week in his career, last season alone. He did have a game against the Bears where he had 11 completions, but that's still only 11 completions. That's hard for one player to break away with 6 catches with more than half of a guy's total completions. But before that, 4 completions, 5 completions, 1 completion in 2022. This is not a guy that's going to go out and get you 20 plus completions. I mean, he has before in his career, yes, but again, this is a struggling Minnesota team now without that Kirk Cousins or without that strong presence at quarterback. So 6 catches for Justin Jefferson, I feel like it's going to be a lot because I think they're going to keep it around the line of scrimmage. I think they're going to throw to their running backs, their tight ends, some crossing routes. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't see Justin Jefferson getting to 6 catches. So give me plus 118 over on FanDuel for Justin Jefferson under 5.5 receptions.
Yeah, I mean, again, he came back last week and left the game. I believe it was classified as a chest injury. And yeah, I think that, looks like he is going to be playing in this game, but how effective is he going to be? But you also mentioned that, again, another quarterback carousel for the Minnesota Vikings with Nick Mullins. And you made a great point that he's going to throw to the running backs and he's going to throw to the tight ends because we saw when he was with his time with the San Francisco 49ers that George Kittle was, I think, one of his favorite targets. And I think that's something that's going to transpire in this game. So, you're taking the under on Jefferson. I'm going to look here at TJ Hawkinson to go over on his number on his receiving yards. And that number is currently at, let's see, where was it? 51 and a half. I'm trying to pull it up in my notes here. Yeah, 52 and a half is the number. So, I think that we saw this last week when Mullins did come in that he was targeting TJ Hawkinson in that matchup. And we know about the Cincinnati Bengals, right? Like they are allowing the most yards to the tight end position. And Hawkinson has been no stranger to targets this season, the Vikings offense. Just last week, Hawkinson was targeted over 8 times for 5 receptions for 53 yards. And the Bengals have allowed 6 tight ends to get over this projection. I expect Hawkinson to feast against this Bengals defense that's not very good against the tight end position. So I think that if they want to accumulate offense, it's going to have to be through TJ Hawkinson in this game. So I'm looking at over 52 and a half receiving yards here for TJ Hawkinson here, Rod.
I think he's gonna have a bonkers game. I think TJ Hawkinson, if you have him in fantasy, then I mean you're probably going to get a pretty decent week out of him for sure. Because like you said, I mean this is a situation where if you have a quarterback that you know that you can just pin your ears and come after, that's what you're gonna do. I mean that's obviously now unfortunately the Chargers felt that too and they didn't get there, but to me I feel like they're going to be under pressure all day. Mullins going to be under pressure all day. Hawkinson runs a quick 8-yard comeback too and catches the ball. You do that 5, 6, 7 times, you're over the hump. So I like this.
All right. Let's go over to player prop number 3, my friend. What do we got?
Well, I'm looking at kickers. I want to go someplace where you're probably not going to watch any other time, but to have actual money on him. And I'm going to go to Dustin Hopkins over there in the Cleveland Browns area. I'm going to take, this is my first over that I'm going to take his over on his kicking points at 6.5. Look, I know Cleveland's actually been surprisingly good on offense lately. They have been putting up some points, which means that Hopkins has actually been getting some run on this. And if you look at what he's done over the last several weeks, he's actually gone over this number in 4 out of the last 5. Hell, if you even go back all the way, he's really only missed this once since his matchup against the Ravens back in October. So he's been over the 6.5 point mark in all but one of those games, whether it's by field goal, whether it's by kicking enough extra points to get last week he kicked 4 extra points and 1 field goal. The week before that, 2 field goals and an extra point. Like he would have had 8 points if he would have made the other extra point. But again, Dustin Hopkins has actually been getting a fair share of run on this offense, and we know that the Bears are no stranger to giving up points altogether. Anyways, too. So kickers have been relatively active, maybe not so much over the last 3 weeks, but before that they gave up 7 to the Panthers and Eddie Pinheiro. They gave up 12 to Dicker the kicker. They gave up 7 to Greg Joseph. Actually, they gave up 11 to Greg Joseph. So they're giving up points in bunches, and I think Hopkins being as active as he is in that Browns offense and one of the main supplier of points, I think it's going to be very simple for him to get at least 7 kicking points in this. This is a -105 over on DraftKings. So keeping you watching the box scores of every game this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love a great. I think we've had a lot of success this season on kicker props, and I know it's been led by you, and I know even Chris got into some as well this season. And I tried to. I think I gave out 1 or 2 this season as well. I think they came into fruition and cash for me as well. So, I mean, you've been great with the kicker props here, Rod, and with the defensive props here as well. So I will definitely be telling this with you, my friend. All right. Let's go. Let's throw out something for the Saturday game here. I know we talked about the TJ Hawkinson. I'm gonna go to that game between the Steelers and the Colts. And I like Jalen Warren to go over on his receiving yards. That number I got at 17.5. I like this all the way up to 20.5. But this is a big game for both teams, right? When we talk about playoff positioning. And the Colts this season, they've struggled against the running back position. I expect the Steelers to take advantage, whether that's on the ground or whether it's through the air. But I'm taking it through the air here, where Jalen Warren is really that guy over Najee Harris when we talk about the passing game. So the Colts are allowing opposing running backs to average close to 5 receptions per game for 43 receiving yards. But in this matchup, I think it's a Warren that's going to get the bulk of or at least the targets through the air. So the Colts have allowed 14 different running backs to go over this projection of 17.5. And 12 of those, and they've gone over 12 of the 14 games, a running back has gone over this projection of 17.5 receiving yards against the Colts. So, I mean, when we've had 14 different running backs do this against the Colts, and in the 14 games that the Colts have played, 12 of those running backs have gone over this projection. We've seen Jalen Warren get heavily involved in this offense as well, right? Especially through the air, and we know that what he can do. So I'm quickly just trying to pull up his numbers here because the page just went out on me. But let's see here. So Jalen Warren on his receiving yards this season. So there was a point where he did kind of tail off as far as the receiving game went, but last week against the New England Patriots, he had 29. Against the Cardinals, he didn't get there. He had actually -4 yards in that game. But we go back to the earlier in the season against the Browns, he had 66. Against the Raiders, 23, 26 against the Texans, 39 against the Baltimore Ravens, 19 against the Jaguars, 25 against the Tennessee Titans. So he's getting the targets weekly. He's at least a minimum of 3 targets in 8 straight weeks. And I can think that the number is there again in that realm of 3 to 4 receptions. I think he's definitely getting over this number of 17 and a half. So Jalen Warren over 17 and a half receiving yards in this game against the Indianapolis Colts here, Rod.
It's really just a couple of screen passes away. Really, that's all it is with these running backs. And with a guy like Jalen Warren, who we know is on the field a little more, is active a little more, does get those touches. Yeah, I think there's a pretty easy path to that number, to what is it, 18? That's pretty easy.
All right, Rod. Any honorable mentions?
Yeah. So you know what's funny? I do say that it's funny that Justin popped on just in time for me to talk bad about his Bears. Sorry about that, Justin. Live.
There we go.
If you're not with us live in the chat, you should be. You know what? I like one. I found one on DK. It's part of this weekly specials. We didn't really touch on the Denver Broncos and the Lions game on the last one on Saturday night. So there's a weekly special on there that says Cortland Sutton for 60 or more receiving yards and Cortland Sutton for at least one touchdown. It's sort of like a pre-built parlay. This is 3-1, so plus 300 over there on DraftKings. I don't hate this. I think I like this for 3-1. Look at what Sutton's done over the last several weeks. 62 receiving yards last week, 77 the week before, 61 the week before that, 66 the week before that, and then 53. So right when the Broncos started to get hot, I guess, as it were, Cortland Sutton started to become funny. The correlation, huh? Cortland Sutton
a little bit.
Cortland Sutton, yeah. And he's been in the end zone in all but one of those games. The only game he wasn't in the end zone was against Cleveland, but he's been 10 touchdowns this season so far. And like I said, he's been in the end zone even far before that. He was in the end zone for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 8 games. So there's a very good chance that he's going to end up scoring the touchdown. And in fact, there's a pretty decent chance he'll score the first touchdown. But for this 3-1 little parlay they got going on, I think for him to get at least 60 yards and a touchdown, that's a pretty decent little hit there.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he's had 10 receiving touchdowns this season, has Cortland Sutton. Just, the size of this guy, whereas with his height, that Russell Wilson and I think, the offensive coaches have been able to utilize him in that red zone. And I think it's a yearly thing for Cortland Sutton just because he's such a big target to have in that red zone. So, yeah, definitely. And again, Sutton's a guy that can definitely get the yardage. You rattled off the numbers. He's done it more times than not only this season, but also throughout his career. I'll throw out a couple more here that I did like. Michael Pittman Jr. Over 7.5 receptions. It's a big number, but it's a big number for a reason, right? He's pretty much the workhorse. We know he's the number one target for the Indianapolis Colts offense, and also just target machine. When we talk about target machines, I mean, Keenan Allen, as the top of the list, but Michael Pittman Jr. is starting to enter that conversation. He's had double-digit targets in 5 of the last 6 weeks for the Colts, but also he's also had at least 8 receptions in 6 straight games for the Colts. So Gardner Minshew has been looking for Michael Pittman Jr. early and often. I expect the targets and the receptions to be there for Michael Pittman Jr. So you might be able to get some plus odds on that over 7.5 receptions. So I think this might be another week where he does have 8 receptions. And then I'll throw out one last one as an honorable mention. Or actually, I am going to be playing this. DeAndre Hopkins against my Texans. I mean, we know the storyline here that he's looking to, get some revenge here. Texans are traveling to Tennessee in this game. And outside of the revenge factor, you take a look in back-to-back weeks for DeAndre Hopkins. He's had 12 targets exactly over the last 2 weeks. So Will Levis has been looking for him. The yardage has been there over the last 2 weeks as well. We saw what he did on Monday Night Football against the Dolphins. He had 124 receiving yards in that game. Also, he had 75 yards against the Indianapolis Colts. So if you want to go back a little further, he had 59 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So seems like he's stepping up in these games against division opponents. I expect him to do that against his former team in the Houston Texans here as well. So there's a couple more honorable mentions there that I did like for this week. You have any more, Rod?
I think I went through them all.
All right, let's go to our touchdown scores for this week. We had a really good night last night as far as our anytime touchdown scores. Hopefully, we can carry that momentum into the weekend here. Rod, lead us off.
So I'm going right back into that Miami game, and I'm going to go ahead and take Raheem Mostert. So not just the anytime, that's probably almost a given. That dude is scoring more
Yeah.
touchdowns than anybody on God's green earth, right? I mean, we know that Mostert, he scored 10 touchdowns so far. He only hasn't scored a touchdown in 3 games. So I'm going to go ahead and just give him 2 touchdowns. We're going to, if you want the anytime, take the anytime. That's probably going to end up cashing for you. But if you really want to have some fun, Raheem Mostert, 2 TDs. You can find that at 5-1 a lot of places, but 6-1 on DK is the best price that I can get for it right now. So Raheem Mostert, 2 touchdowns. He did it the last time he played the Jets. And look, Miami's a little pissed off. If you didn't see what happened in Miami a little bit ago, then you got to go look into that. He's more than just a little pissed off, or they're all more than just a little pissed off. Excuse me, right now, after what happened to them. So you got to think that they're going to not shy away from using every weapon in their arsenal. And to be honest with you, I don't even think they actually, I know Mostert had one of his better games, but I almost feel like they didn't use him enough, to be honest with you. I think they still could have given him the ball a few more times. I know they gave him 21 attempts for 96 yards, but maybe my eyes just didn't feel like they got him involved enough. But he did get 2 touchdowns last week as well. So he's scoring in bunches. I think that for him to not score more than, or at least more than one is sort of a, I just feel like this is a come out piss game.
Yeah.
And Mostert gets in the end zone twice.
I think you're right that they have to take out some frustration on the Jets here. I know, like, defensively, the Jets came into the season supposed to be a really good, defensive unit, but especially without, if Tyreek Hill doesn't play in this game, we maybe just see the running attack here with Raheem Mostert. And again, I always can see a world with Raheem Mostert has at least 2, or could get a game with at least 2 touchdowns. So cannot talk you off of that one, my friend. I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna take DeAndre Hopkins plus 145. I think there'll be an emphasis. He's a great red zone target. We've seen this all throughout his career. When he was with the Texans, when he was with the Cardinals, and now we're seeing it with the Titans here as well. So at plus 145, D Hop to kind of stick it to the Texans. I'm a narrative guy, Rod. If you haven't figured that out yet about doing the show over the last 2 seasons, but at plus 145, I'll take DeAndre Hopkins to find the end zone. So for the Packers, Rod, I did see that both AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones are officially questionable. I doubt Aaron Jones plays, and it seems like that AJ Dillon is trending towards not playing as well. I like Patrick Taylor to find the end zone, and I think the odds are also indicating that he may find the end zone because his odds are only plus 180 for him to find the end zone. If you watch this guy run the football, he really reminds me, or his running style is similar to that of Isaiah Pacheco of the Kansas City Chiefs, this downhill hard runner. And I think that he may be, there's a possibility that he does find the end zone here at plus 180. And then I'll throw out one from the Lions and the Broncos game. We already talked about Cortland Sutton. Anytime you see him at plus odds, you got to take it, no matter if it's plus 105 or plus 110, what I'm staring at right now. Jameson Williams plus 450 to find the end zone. This is one of those guys that, you can get involved, whether it's in the passing game, like a downfield threat. He's a fast player. But there was a game, I think it was against the Bears. It was either the Bears or the Saints last week where they kind of got him involved in the jet sweep action, and they were able to get him into the end zone, just him utilizing his speed and getting into the end zone. So I'll throw that one out there. Jameson Williams on Saturday night plus 450. If you want to sprinkle on him first touchdown, that's at 25-1. So I don't hate that either. All right, so those are our touchdown scores for this weekend. Rod, let's do our best bets, and then we'll put together our PrizePicks entry for the weekend schedule here. You want to give us your best bet first?
Sure. I will go with my kicking bet because I feel like this is probably the easiest one to make, and that's Dustin Hopkins over 6.5 kicking points. Plus, it's the one that the least amount of juice on here, so I like that at minus 105 on DK.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. I will go. I'm gonna go either D Hop or let's just go D Hop, man. I'll be the narrative guy. I also do love Jalen Warren over on his receiving yards. I'll give you two. Why not? Since there's two games or sorry, 2 days of football with Saturday and Sunday. So I'll go Jalen Warren for the Saturday games over 17 and a half receiving yards, and then DeAndre Hopkins over 57 and a half receiving yards against the Houston Texans. So feel really good about those two for this weekend. All right, Rod, last but not least, let's put together our prize picks entry for this NFL week 15. Again, go to prizepicks.com if you don't already have an account. Use our promo code SGPN. You'll get a first deposit match of up to $100. You can come play along with us and also make your own picks over on Price Picks, and you can just select more or less on honestly not only the NFL but NBA, NHL, college football, college basketball, soccer. They even have first half stuff as well, first quarter stuff for NBA as well. I know MMA, UFC pay-per-view event, last one of the year. A lot of people tune into that, so they have a lot of great stuff happening over on Prize Picks. Their board is absolutely it's an extensive menu, which I really love about them. So all right, Rod. So let us start here with our. I think we'll put in our favorite plays for this week. So I see Dustin Hopkins 6.5 kicking points. We'll go more on that. Let me see if Jalen Warren is posted here for the Saturday games. Let's see. Let me just search for it. It might be faster that way. Jalen Warren, I see at 17 and a half receiving yards. We'll go more on that. You want to throw in another one that you like for this week?
Let's see. Do you want to do Brees Hall under 44 and a half?
Yeah, I really like that one. That was I love the handicap that you gave on that. So we'll go, let's see, Brees Hall.
Less than.
I see 43 and a half for his number. So we'll go less than.
Less than, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it might be just be another game where he's like in the 30s. So yeah, we'll throw that in there. All right, I love it. So we'll do a 3-pick entry here on the power play. Power play means you have to hit all three of these to win some moolah. So just to recap, our prize picks entry is going to be Dustin Hopkins, more than 6.5 kicking points, Jalen Warren, more than 17.5 receiving yards, and then we'll go Brees Hall, less than 43.5 rushing yards for this NFL Week 15 prize picks entry. And that is another week in the books for our NFL player props here. Rod, anything else you want to mention, my friend, before we get out of here?
Enjoy 2 days of football. I mean, we've already enjoyed the Thursday night game. I know that there won't be that much of a points explosion in all of the rest of the games, but hopefully we didn't use up all the points in Thursday night's game. But yeah, it'll be fun, be a blast. Obviously, check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. We have broken down pretty much everything the books have given us so far, win totals, head-to-head matchups in the championship. So lots of fun over there. And then check out the F1 Gambling Podcast next week. We'll have some championship futures to break down too there.
Love it. Yeah. Again, we're right around the corner for motorsports to be kicking off again. It's going to be here before you know it. So make sure you guys tune in with Rod and Cody. They absolutely crushed it last season. I'm no doubt in my mind they're going to do it again for the new season coming up in the 2024 year. If you haven't already subscribed to the NFL Gambling Podcast YouTube feed, I don't know what you're waiting for. Go ahead and do that. And also, if you want to hit the like button, if you did watch this stream live over on YouTube, you can follow Rod, like you mentioned, on X at RJ Villagomez. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. We'll be back next week, as usual, for the Thursday night football game and NFL Week 16 as well. Till then, enjoy the games this weekend. Let's break these books off and let it ride.